our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Priscilla Simon.
Priscilla Simon is off today with your 420 Radio News for Friday, August 8th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. A petition to decriminalize marijuana in Wichita, Kansas has fallen 47 signatures short. But activists with the Decrim campaign are questioning just how County Election Commission's supervisor Tabitha Lehman has been counting the signatures. The campaign turned in over 6,400 signatures for a petition drive that required just shy of 3,000 signatures by law. Lehman's office rejected about 3,600 signatures as invalid, a roughly 45% validity rate. Activists point out that Lehman's office subjectively disqualified signatures they felt didn't match a person's handwriting on their voter registration card. Lehman responded that while her office doesn't employ anyone trained as a handwriting expert, she did have several of her employees look at the questionable signatures before rejecting them. The initiative would make simple possession of marijuana a $25 fine-only offense. Activists will ask the Wichita City Council on Tuesday to put the initiative before the voters. Otherwise, they will recirculate their petition in time for the next city election. Wait a minute. I got to wrap my mind around that. We don't have any handwriting experts among any of our employees, so we took a whole bunch of them that aren't experts and had them look at something. How does that make any difference? Well, I feel a lot better that instead of one unqualified person denying my right to petition, it's a whole bunch of unqualified people denying my right to petition. This is just another example of bureaucratic and electoral shenanigans that we have to fight against as marijuana reformers. They are going to try to put every little roadblock they can in our way, and they're going to put extra heightened scrutiny on every single signature sheet that we turn in. You can bet if this were some petition to help the Ag Council or the Business League or whatever the hell try to get something that they wanted, oh boy, those signatures would be declared really valid, really easy. They wouldn't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. But when it comes to marijuana, they're going to do everything they can to try to thwart the inevitable will of the people. Good on the people of Wichita, Kansas for continuing to fight for this, because you know what? I would really love to have a reporter reporting from Kansas on marijuana election night this November 4th on 420 Radio. Voters in South Portland, Lewiston, and likely York, Maine will join Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. in voting for marijuana legalization this November. While the municipal votes in these three towns in Maine will largely be symbolic, if passed, they would join the state's largest city, Portland, which passed legalization of 2.5 ounces of possession by 67% last year. They would be setting the stage for a statewide legalization campaign in 2016. Today, the Maine Marijuana Policy Project turned in enough valid signatures to force Lewiston City Council to legalize possession of 1 ounce of marijuana by adults 21 and older, or place the initiative before the voters. On Monday, the City Council of South Portland placed that city's 1 ounce legalization on the ballot. On the previous Monday, the Board of Selectmen in York voted 3-2 not to place 1 ounce legalization on the ballot after MMMP submitted a required 100 signatures to make that request. However, the activist group plans on continuing collecting of the 631 signatures needed to force a public vote. Hey, this is great. Now, I can't wait to have someone reporting for us from Maine on these three cities voting on legalization when we do marijuana election night on November 4th here on 420radio.org. This is really exciting. And this is the way to do it, folks. You know, I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and I can't tell you how many times someone would say, when's NORML going to come to our town, and when's NORML going to come to our state and legalize it? When are they going to come legalize in Oklahoma? When are they going to legalize in Tennessee? When are they going to legalize in Ohio? And so on. And that's not how it works. And right out of the bat, you don't want to try to do something statewide, man. Learn how to walk before you learn how to run. Taking on a citywide initiative is the way to do this. Prove that you can handle things on a municipal level. Pick a few small towns and go at it. And then from there, you can start building the networks and the alliances and the coalitions and have people believe in your capability to do these things. That leads to what the statewide changes are that you'll want to see. It's how they handled it in Colorado. Denver had voted on a couple of things as far as decrim and legalization went before they went to full legalization. In Missouri, in Michigan, in Massachusetts, I don't know why it's all M states, but they've done the same sort of thing. They've started in the city level and they're building to a statewide coalition. And this is just going to pick up steam. We're going to get more and more cities that are going to pull this off. And hopefully Wichita, Kansas can join South Portland, Lewiston, and York this November. San Diego's Union of Medical Marijuana Patients has sued the city and the California Coastal Commission over restrictive zoning of medical marijuana co-ops. But rather than basing their complaint on patient access or disability rights, this lawsuit claims that restricting co-ops to just a few located in certain industrial and commercial zones effectively violates the California Environmental Quality Act. San Diego's, quote, extremely restrictive approach, the lawsuit contends, will require, quote, thousands of patients to drive across the city of San Diego to obtain their medicine because cooperatives are only allowed in certain limited places in the city, which will create traffic and air pollution, end quote. The Coastal Commission is named in the lawsuit because it had to approve San Diego's ordinance under the Environmental Quality Act, and it, quote, failed to analyze the reasonably foreseeable consequences of increased indoor cultivation of medical marijuana, end quote, which patients are forced into when they lack co-ops. The suit notes that indoor cultivation of medical marijuana is, quote, responsible for about 3% of all electricity use in California or 9% of household use in California, equivalent to greenhouse gas emissions equal to those from 1 million cars, end quote. Well, I applaud them for the creative use of the environmental code to try to go after this, but I don't know if that's the kind of standard they'll let stand. I mean, that's not the kind of precedent I think they would want to see. I mean, if you ruled that having this law about co-ops required more people to use indoor electricity or to drive more across town, that could be an argument that could be used by a lot of different organizations or businesses to try to get their way, claiming that this change or that change would create more traffic or would create more indoor use of electricity. I don't know about that slippery slope. I don't know if we want to go there, but short term, I think it's probably a good idea. It's got to be something. I mean, we've tried every different avenue, Americans with Disabilities Act, and whether or not people have the rights under Prop 215 or SB 420. But all we've seen in California so far is a hodgepodge, a patchwork of dry and wet counties, dry and wet cities, where places like Fresno and Bakersfield and the Inland Empire largely have no access to medical cannabis, while people in the West Hollywood area or the Bay Area have all the access they could possibly want. This has to change, and only statewide regulation can do it. I feel it may be too late for statewide medical marijuana regulation, and California may have to just fold everything into a very broad recreational legalization program. The continuing fallout from accidental overingestion of THC chocolate bars at the Denver County Fair has now culminated in a class action lawsuit. Jordan Coombs was one of 3 people who reportedly ate full melt chocolate samples at the fair provided by LiveWell, a Denver pot shop. 2 of the 3 people were hospitalized, the first of whom, Richard Jones, reported that the LiveWell rep who distributed the chocolate indicated they were THC-free samples. The Denver County Fair said in a statement that, quote, we had a very strict policy that all of our vendors agree to, banning all marijuana products from the fair, end quote. In Coombs' negligence lawsuit against Full Melt Chocolate and LiveWell, he described feeling ill at the fair when he, quote, projectile vomited uncontrollably, end quote, in the car while his wife drove him home. Jones told the media, quote, I was sweaty, I was nauseous, I was panicking, I was afraid it was a stroke or a heart attack, end quote. Look, folks, these edible overingestion stories are not doing our cause any favors. And I know people on our side that have experience, people that are used to this kind of stuff, kind of laugh this stuff off, like, oh, just take a nap or you get over it or just relax. Folks, this can be scary. This can be very scary and somewhat painful. I have been that person. I have been the guy who has over-ingested THC from a mega dab I took in Los Angeles, and I ended up in a dry heaving fit on the sidewalk on the streets of Los Angeles, puking into a gutter, wondering when it was ever going to stop, shaking and shuddering uncontrollably, my skin clammy and cold. It was not pleasant at all. And I've been drunk. I've been hella drunk, and I've had nothing that compared to an over ingestion of THC. So don't take this lightly and respect how powerful this is in public relations terms. We've got to get a handle on this. A pre-dawn raid in California by thieves posing as law enforcement has left 2 rippers dead and a teenage girl terrified. 7 armed men forced their way into a Fresno home at 4 in the morning where 3 plots totaling 150 marijuana plants were growing. A man inside was pistol whipped and a fierce gun battle ensued between the rippers and the growers. As police arrived, 2 cars sped away from the scene. Officers caught 1 car at the hospital where 1 ripper died of his gunshot wounds and 2 rippers were arrested. 3 others in the other car kidnapped a 15-year-old girl from the home to use as a human shield, dropping her off unharmed in downtown Fresno after eluding police on a 100-mile-per-hour chase. The 7th ripper was found dead of his gunshot wounds near the home. Fresno County Sheriff Margaret Mims said the incident is, quote, directly related to drug trafficking and not medical marijuana, end quote. Well, Sheriff Mims, how do you know that? Since March, the county of Fresno, and since January, the city of Fresno, and maybe I've got those 2 backwards, but it doesn't matter. Since most of this year, both the city and county of Fresno have had absolute bans on marijuana cultivation. No co-ops, no dispensaries, and for God's sake, not even patients allowed to grow their own medicine at home. So how do you know those 150 plants weren't being grown for medical marijuana patients in the area? You've got this huge area of Central California where people have to drive all the way across the state in one direction or another just to access the medicine that the voters of California said they should have the right to use with their doctor's recommendation under Prop 215 18 years ago. Gee, 18 years, people, and the sky hasn't fallen. Can't you get it through your thick skulls that allowing people to use medical marijuana is a good thing and prohibiting it just causes things like this? It's 4:20 in Denver. We got to take a break and get something to relax with. We're back with Behind the Headlines and Oregon medical marijuana patients banned from daycares after this. 420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups.
Join us for the International Cannabis Business Conference September 13th and 14th in the Portland Ballroom at the Oregon Convention Center. The International Cannabis Business Conference will focus on the emerging cannabis industry in Oregon, the United States, and around the world, putting you in front of the industry's foremost entrepreneurs, political leaders, and attorneys. Also showcasing over 40 cannabis-related industry exhibitors, offering VIP lunches and free nightly networking events. Prepare yourself for America's next great industry.
I don't use marijuana, but as a teacher of 36 years, I can tell you lots of other people use it. I don't believe in prohibition. I don't think it works. Prohibiting it hasn't stopped anybody from getting a hold of it. I would like to see it regulated so that maybe kids can't get a hold of it so easily. I know they get a hold of it now very easily. I support a new approach to marijuana. I support legalizing it. It's with us. It's not going to go away. And if we can get money through the taxation